Hi everybody, my name's Sean. I really enjoyed the Family Butchers, that was terrific. I hope they do a EP or something. But yeah, it's sort of interesting talking about Queensland and Indonesia and the 70s and political repression and great music coming out of that time. I thought we should start maybe with John Wilsteed here on my left and just ask him about the political climate in the 70s and how it really impacted on people who wanted to create music in this town.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it's probably, you know, there's so many parallels, and looking at that time, Bjelke-Petersen here, Suharto, and the similarities in the banning of street marches here, student protests in Indonesia, and the you know, no long hair, all of that sort of stuff. It seems so extreme after such a long period, you know, 40 years later or something. It seems ridiculous, extreme in a way, just as these times here, you know, we talk about them now as and they seem mythical or something, that young people would be arrested just because of the way they look, but in those days it was very common. So I don't know whether I wanted to get into that so much, but certainly this was, I think, a similar place, and I think that the music, you know, a lot of people have written about music coming up out of those times, and how in adversity culture thrives in that way. Certainly subculture thrives in that way. I think that's very true. I think, you know, I don't know, I didn't feel like at the time that I was being pummeled daily, but I certainly felt the weight of it, and that was certainly, there was an element behind everything that I made in those days, yeah.
Now, over in Indonesia, of course, 1974, you had a lot of demonstrations in the streets and people showing how they felt about the government, which of course we had here in the 70s as well. Can you tell us about that time in the mid-70s?
To be honest, I born in the 74, and I, you know, like I'm rising in the 90s. Like I'm really born like fond of 90s music, but also 70s is like a golden era of music in Indonesia, and that's also many Indonesian who like music, they will search into 70s Indonesian stuff. And in that era, if you see like all the records been released, there's really you cannot find a popular track that telling stories about the political situation or social situation in that time. It's really rare. If there's been some people have, is only collectors, and it's being hidden in an album that releasing a pop song, and there will be only one or two tracks that really rocking stuff. Yeah.
So when people talk about a resurgence of interest in music from this part of the world in Indonesia, you're talking about punk? Punk was the kind of thing that people are talking about and wanting to get copies of?
Actually, talking about punk.
You're not talking about you know, Air Supply and soft rock.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. like I mean, in the 70s, it's like mostly bands in Indonesia, musicians, they playing art rock, progressive rock, kind of. It's more into that stuff. Yeah. In a way, there's no kind of really apply punk like in a kind of ideology, also, but maybe in the spirit, but not in the ideological way. Yeah.
Yeah, can I?
Paul, I know. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, because in that era, the situation is like in Suharto came on 67, and then just after, like 1 year after he was in power, he signed like, for example, foreign investment. So like Freeport in Papua is actually coming on that year as well, and like control, stability. It's like two words that he like really have to make sure that investment is secured. So so a lot of censorship, a lot of like interested, like actually lyrics, for example, like small lyrics can be changed because of that. So like there's a lot of music or a lot of band is cannot sign by the producer as well, because they immediately get kicked out because no, it's impossible to publish this kind of stuff. So like in 70 and 77, actually there's a big policy, which is also, actually this policy is very interesting because a lot of political movement is actually coming from the campus. And 77, after 75, we have like a big riots on the street because of the students' movement against the investment of Japanese company, car company. And in 77, the government actually kicked back the student movement back to campus. So like it's not allowed to have political activism in the campus, like long hair, that kind of it's 77. So you know that era that's coming out as well, like interest like art rock, you know, and then it become more metaphorical, more poetic. There's no like straightforward. It's almost impossible.
So from what you've heard, that era from 1965 to 1975, things are getting pushed underground. This kind of music is very hard to access. From people you've spoken to that are older than you, how are they accessing this kind of music in Indonesia? Was there a bootleg trade?
Yes, some got it from a bootleg, and also there's a lot of pirate records, pirate record, and also from radio, from abroad, like from the ABC radio, also from many of the musicians they listen to the radio and they record it, and then they play a cover, kind of, or just remind the song, and they play it with their own way.
I wanted to go to Paul on the end here. I mean, for those of us old enough to remember being a child in the 70s, you could literally see ABBA on TV in the morning, and also the Saints as well. I remember there'd be all those television shows on a Saturday morning. So there wasn't a lot of media, but there was sort of access to interesting things. Now, for you as a child in the mid-70s, what sort of things were you tapping into?
Sorry, I'm just experiencing something here that I've heard many bands complain about, is that when they have bad fallback, not that I'm claiming, there's no one, it's just, it's like, it's really weird hearing your questions with fallback, and now
So
I'm
just
like,
getting it round and round and round and round and round.
Now I know why everyone complains when they have bad fallback,
It's
because
bad,
it really does wreck their show.
It does, because everything's out there and there's nothing here.
And I'm like, I can't hear, sorry, there you are. Sorry about that. I've never experienced this before, so it's unique for me.
And of course, we all know the audience don't care.
No, I mean, I've always thought it was important, but I've never actually experienced it myself.
Now you know how important.
Yeah, very.
Sort of like listening to yourself underwater. But
Yeah, so your question sounded like it was underwater, but I feel it was something to do with me being a child in the 70s.
No, I'll just tell you off mic.
Okay, that's probably better.
So you in the 70s, as a child, you were hearing this different kinds of music. What kind of things you listened to?
I grew up kind of hating music.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that? I grew up disliking music. My family constantly played Jamie Redfern, James Last, and ABBA, and I wasn't really into any of it. And I seem to recall, and they were obsessed about watching Countdown.
Yeah.
And then one day I developed two interests. For some reason, I wanted to listen to music, and I wanted Herman's Hermits and the Beatles. And then the Sex Pistols came on the TV, and those two things kind of set me off. And since then, I feel like I've been on this trip, but I like a musical trip. I've gone into so many different directions and so many interests. Even working with an Indonesian band recently, Senyawa, which these guys have hosted in Jakarta. But yeah, the impact. I mean, it's funny listening to these stories about arrests and so forth. I remember more starting to see bands. I think the first bands I saw were Pell Mell from Sydney, the Screaming Tribesmen, and I continually went and saw John's band, Zero,
Yes.
and got really obsessed with them. I never got to see the Go-Betweens. I never got to see the Saints because they'd kind of departed. But I feel also, and listening to these guys talk about how they access music and thinking about how kids access music today, you can access anything now.
Yeah.
It's just so there. But when things aren't so accessible, they seem to develop more value and the pursuit of them seem to be like to have its own kind of empowerment.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like you know of something but you don't experience it. It feels so powerful. And I remember getting to see the Go-Betweens and the Saints when they came back. Saints ex Ed Cooper by that stage. And you know, there was something so exciting. But yeah, I mean, I started going out in the early 80s and I remember getting arrested on the street because I had green hair.
Wow.
And, you know, search for drugs, and it just seemed to be like a really common occurrence. The one big difference between here and Indonesia, of course, is there were no guns.
Yeah.
You know, so it was probably a little bit more stable in that regard. But there were friends of mine, they used to have the Health Act, where they'd just turn up, maybe 5, 6
Yes.
carloads of police, just storm in the house, there was a party on maybe, and just take it over. Impose the Health Act, and that was the end of it. You couldn't do anything, and half the people there would probably end up being dragged off in the paddy wagon. But yeah, but it was always around music. Everything was always around music. Music had a sense of kind of resistance. I got obsessed with Triple Z. You know, just kind of, I don't know, it was a big thing for me.
Well, Triple Z's interesting. I wanted to ask you, how did the CUDA come to connect with Triple Z? How did the CUDA come to connect with Triple Z? People have spoken about the song being played on the radio.
They were playing them in the 70s here. Yeah, someone came back with some recordings.
Yeah, with a tape, I think. Yep. And then
Yeah.
played on the radio, and just like you guys were talking about.
I remember the first time I heard the track played, they really gave like a whole kind of background story on them, and
Some woman came back from. Is this
amazing.
not right with the tape? I can
Yeah, it's
barely
like-
remember. But what you said before, you know, somebody plays it on the radio and somebody else tapes it at home, and then that gets shared around, and you know, so that's how music moved around in those days.
And that's not piracy, that's
No,
dissemination of culture
Yeah.
in this kind of underground manner. I mean, I don't believe downloading is piracy now. I just think it's an enactment of like, you know, it's social interaction, sharing culture. Like music started off as kind of a celebratory, ritualistic, passing of stories, forms of resistance. It wasn't about a commodity, it wasn't about a product. That's something that kind of came later. Now it's been kind of given that freedom again.
Yes.
I'm excited by that. So I don't think of things in terms of piracy, it's just dissemination of culture.
It's like a file sharing, I think. It's like before it was a mixtape and now like a kind of viral. Yeah.
Sorry, Sean, there's a little quote from one of those, just burn the papers. There's a little thing here that says, our songs, our lyrics, our languages, our souls, our expressions, and our tools to open everything that we encounter. See, I feel like that's really important. The music in those days for people who are working, you know, there are very few bands in Brisbane who attained any kind of, you know, credibility as far as the industry goes. There's a whole huge kind of world of music that has nothing to do with the music industry. It's just music that people played as a way of expressing how they fitted into their culture, you know, their subculture in that case, and responding to all of the stuff that was going on around them. It was never meant for sale, or it's just meant to be a part of this big, like a fabric, and music's a thread in the fabric, as is making posters and clothes and instruments and all of the other shit, writing and, you know, sending letters to people and social gatherings and all of that sort of stuff. It's all part of a big thing. You know, music's just a little part of that.
And even the venues arose out of finding spaces to do stuff.
Yep.
And generally they would be spaces that, whatever you could get access to.
Yeah.
Yes.
And would then eventually be shut down.
The curry shop in Upper Roma Street is a great example of a horrible, hole-in-the-wall room where incredibly great music was played, you know.
So how easy, John, was it in the mid-70s to get a song on Triple Z?
I have no idea. No, it was really not that hard. You
Yeah.
just went in with your cassette,
Yeah.
you know, and you gave it to them and they'd play anything on the air. I think that there was probably a little period the radio station started in 75. By 76 or 77, they were playing new music. They had a punk show. So they were resistant at the very beginning, but it didn't last very long. And, it was really obvious that there was a wave overtaking. And you guys alluded to it before, that prog rock was kind of the thing before punk came along. And prog rock requires technical expertise and gear as well. So, you need a lot of instrumentation, you need multiple keyboards, otherwise it's not prog at all. So punk's the very opposite of that. You don't need to know very much, you don't need much gear. You can record with really crappy cassette things. There's no, you're not trying to attain to some kind of higher level of expertise in production or playing or anything. It's about self-expression.
It should be about capturing spontaneous,
moment,
spontaneous creative expression. Yep.
Now, in the 70s in Australia, in Queensland, people used things like alternative radio. They'd make their own posters, their own flyers, a thing we have here called street press. How did the Kuda use those kind of things? Did they do a lot of handbills and posters? Was that part of the art?
Because there are also rising in the college, it's like a college way, to also produce their own publication, kind of like such a pamphlet, such a stickers, and also they also playing more in the community, like kind of a college student. Among the college student, and also
like small venues.
There's the venue is more not like a really real infrastructure, but it's more like a spontaneous place, spontaneous venues.
It's like guerrilla sort of things, just like moving around and
like pop-up galleries now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a pop thing.
And also they got their references must be very limited, very minimum references they had. Then it's only they get from kind of a mixtapes, and also from the elders, kind of from their senior in the college, like somehow like that. Yeah.
Well, we should see if anybody out there's got any questions for any of the boys on stage. Any questions? Anybody looking to find Kuda music anywhere? Is it on the internet? Can they download the track that was played today?
I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so.
Keep it like that.
But I don't know. Might be.
They have to bring a cassette deck in here and they have to copy it.
Copy it.
Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know.
Cassette tradition again.
But can try search for it. I don't know. Maybe because rapid share now is like.
We could start a bootleg industry and send it back to Indonesia. Any questions for anybody at all? Somebody must have one. Jane Grigg at the back there, who used to work at Triple Z. Do you still there, Jane?
Background volunteer.
Yeah.
Background volunteer, not on the air. How's it for bands and music people and DJs or anyone having kind of a party or events or something these days? In Indonesia, where
nowadays.
I mean, is there any kind of restriction on what thing may or may not get shut down, or is it?
Any restrictions these days? Can you do whatever you like over there?
These days, I think it's more easy actually to produce your own music. Also to distribute it, your own music in Indonesia, but the thing is still, I mean, like the mainstream, the industry, they I mean, like they still have the power to control what popular demand, and also still for like independent musician. It's always hard for them to really get their income from their music. It always have to be in they have to have a daily job, for example, or they have to work in other field, or just becoming an organizing music for commercial. and then they can support their own production.
Are they, can I
But
are they,
I mean like for about the political thing, they can express it more freely right now. Like they can say anything, but I mean like it's like very noisy. It's like everything. You can just hear it small. Yeah, from like many kind of release. There's too many.
Like for example, I mean, it's there is a politically or ideologically there is a lot of, it's so diverse now, and like musician or bands just like shouting their statements, like rock. It's been like, it's always big. Rock is always big in Indonesia, and metal is also very big, like very big. Last few years actually, together with after '98 with the rise of like a lot of Muslim groups, and then they have sort of like they call it one one fingers metal. It's not like three or two fingers, like two. It's like they bring out the hatred towards Israel, for example, and also very loud on putting statements on free radicals from Muslim ideology, that kind of stuff. So it's so diverse, you know, like it's not only like right or left, so it's like it's in the middle, and then it's so diverse now, and they're quite big. I mean, like Indra said, like distribution, networking, like everyone is actually using all the tools that exist now, you know, like social media or internet, into that kind of networks. Yeah.
There's a very big experimental kind of creative scene up in Yogyakarta, right?
Yeah. Jogja is always because it's something to do with the tradition of like, there's a big arts community and tradition there as well. There's a big art schools and many things. So there's sort of like experimental things always coming out from Jogja. And of course, like Jogja as a city, the reality is different with Jakarta, for example. I mean, in Jogja, you can easily, I can say like living cost like 110. It's like you can, you know, like rent of the space, for example, it's really like 110 different, you know, like 10 million, for example, in Jakarta you will get like maybe like just like 10 months, but in Jogja you can have like 1 year, something like that. So with that, you know, like I think the expression it's more secure. I mean, to be like really fully express or experiment with your artistic ideas. It's more like more open and more can be longer than Jakarta. Jakarta, like Ameng said, like Indra said, like you always have to work as in the commercial industry, and then you have to also do things like that. But in Jogja, you can do it just like a fully musician or full artist.
John, you're in a unique situation where you were making music back then in the 70s.
What you're saying, Sean, is that I'm the oldest person here.
You're still making music now. Obviously, with the internet, you can we all know about that. You can get your music heard all over the world. You can post a song this afternoon if you wanted to. Are these times just as exciting as it was back then when you had oppression, lack of venues, lack of avenues for your music? Can you still create good things?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think we're certainly heading into a time where it's going to be like that again to some extent. You know, there's going to be a lack of funding for a lot of the good things about
new
people's
conservatism.
lives, and new conservatism certainly, and I think that will impact on young people more than, you know, I'm in my mid-50s and I have a job, and you know, whatever happens in the government will affect me less than if I was 18 and didn't have a job and there was no prospects of work. It would be a very different sort of world. I think that maybe life has always been a little bit easier here.
Yes.
And that has something to do with the weather and, people used to run away here from Melbourne and Sydney for very good reason. Even though the regime was pretty bad, life was easier, cheaper, easier. A bit like what you were saying, it was cheaper to get a place here, a lot cheaper than in Sydney or in the inner city or in Melbourne. I don't know whether young people are political in the same way now as what I don't think people are political in the same way. I think the internet's really changed everything, and I don't know in what way. I'm not an analyst in that kind of way. It's not the way I think, but I don't know. I don't feel like you never feel like something's coming, I don't feel like there's a great new wave coming, where everything's just going to change really radically and people are going to, like punk was or maybe like what rap was or something. I don't feel like there's something around the corner like that. I think it's just everything is everywhere now. It's all kind of messed up in this big soup, and it's actually, like you said before, the noise thing is a big deal. It's harder to find things in the noise, and I guess that's the trick of the future is finding the glasses to wear or the ears, training your ears to find the things that are for you, I don't know how you do that though. I teach young people and I've got no idea how to teach them that. I just go, you just got to trust what you got to be, fuck the music industry. Don't listen to anything any of those people tell you, because they're all liars and cheats. They're just the white shoe brigade. They're the guys who build resorts and and drill for gas in your backyard. So you don't trust any of them. That's about the only
They're motivated
advice.
by those interests.
Yeah.
But I mean, essentially what you're saying there is replicating that same thing, say, that existed in the 70s where it was harder to get access to things.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's an overwhelming density out there. And on one hand, you do get that, you can get access to whatever, but at the same time, to find that whatever is now the trick.
That's the trick.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Paul, because you've enjoyed enormous success as a band manager, label owner, commercially, with things like Regurgitator and so forth.
Yeah, but it's not overtly commercial as such.
No, but you still sold a lot of CDs back in the day, and I know you put a lot of things out now. You can be very prepared, you can make great music. There's still an element of something random about commercial success, though, isn't there?
Is it called luck? Is he talking about luck?
No, certainly in luck, but I mean, there's also a kind of, my way of thinking is maybe confusing in the sense that this idea of commercial success, I mean, there was this big thing called the hit, and maybe that's not possible anymore because of the changing nature of how people can access so many different things, and so interests aren't directed towards one kind of outcome. So once upon a time, there were maybe 4 TV stations that everyone was directed to watch. So big events could be consumed in kind of compressed ways. Yeah. Now, there's a massive range of things to experience.
Yes.
So it's harder to get everyone's attention to be pushed into one or corralled into one kind of thing. So, and that perfectly suits the sorts of things that I'm interested in, because I'm not interested in commercial hits because I find them lacking in life, lacking in interest. I don't know. So with Regurgitator, who I've managed for close to 20 years, the music we record costs very little to record, because that's another thing that's happened, is that through the kind of development of digital culture, there's been a kind of democratization of production as such. So people can make stuff cheaper because of the computer, because they don't need to kind of seek out funding. I mean, if they can get access to the money to buy a computer and then learn how to use it, learn about music programs and so forth, you can record an album for under $1,000. Well, once upon a time, you couldn't do that. You know, you needed to go to studios.
And to go to studios, you had to rely on the record company.
Exactly, the industry gatekeepers. Now you can kind of bypass all that. So with Regurgitator's music, we make it available in different formats that people can buy, but also we put it up there for free because I think the asset, as so to speak, has shifted from being the commodification of music, like selling CDs, etc., to then to the actual performance thereof. You know, and so the music I kind of deal with lives from working on smaller scale economies and kind of making it work
Yes.
where they can live from it, you know, which we've been very fortunate and lucky to achieve.
Yes. So one last question, unless there's any from the audience. What's next for you guys? What are you doing next?
The next year we will having our video festival. It's called OK Video Festival. It will be on September, October. Yeah. In Jakarta. Yeah.
Any questions from anybody? Or anybody want to say anything?
Kylie Gaffney.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening in today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and thanks for the CUDA.
Thank you.
Great band.